Okay, so I'll be going through setting up a Bitcoin node on Ubuntu 18.04. I'll be running it on a virtual machine. You can do this as well, or alternatively, you can have a separate dedicated machine and run Ubuntu off that. So I'll be doing it on a virtual machine using VirtualBox. You can download VirtualBox from virtualbox.org, and if you go to the download section, they have implementations for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So once you've downloaded it and installed that, you should be able to access the VirtualBox Manager. So in here, I will create new. I'm going to call it Nodebox. And I'm going to save it into a hard drive that I know has a lot of space. So I've got a 4TB hard drive here where all my virtual machines are. So I will put that in there. This one, you'll need at least 1TB of hard drive to run a full Bitcoin node. That's the recommended size as of now. We'll go to Linux and we will make it Ubuntu 64-bit. Okay, click next. Now the RAM, I've got a fair bit of RAM on this computer. I'm going to give it 8 gigs of RAM. It depends on how much you have, but 8 gigs of RAM is a good decent size or amount of RAM. So next, we'll create a virtual hard disk drive. So yep, and then we'll do a VDI. Okay, we'll get it dynamically allocated. And I'm going to use the full 2TB that it allows you to do, but you can move that around to however much you need. 1TB is probably the minimum, and then I'm just going to give it 2TB. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to need to do is change a couple of settings on this node box. So we'll do that. The first thing I'm going to change is, as you can see, I've got 8 gigs of RAM there. I'm going to make the processor 4 CPUs. The other thing that I want to change is the network. So instead of NAT, I'm going to change that to bridged adapter, and that'll allow me to essentially take advantage of a completely brand new IP address on for this machine. And then we're going to do storage. So what you'll need to do is download a copy of Ubuntu and put it into here. So what you'd need to download is you just go to ubuntu.com, go to the download section, and what you want is Ubuntu Desktop 18.04 long-term support, and it'll download through. So this is an ISO file that you need, and it's 1.9 gigs, so just be wary of that. So that might take a little bit of time to download, so download that, and then we go back into the VirtualBox and we load that ISO file up. So I've already got it here, Ubuntu 18.04.3 desktop. So I will insert that into there. Okay, so we've got our system sorted, we've got the storage sorted, we've got the network sorted. I'm happy with the settings there, so we'll go with OK. And then all you need to do is hit start. Okay, so that's fired up Ubuntu installation. So we'll install Ubuntu. English is fine. We'll do a normal installation, download updates while installing Ubuntu. That's fine as well. So we'll do that. We'll erase disk and install Ubuntu, and that'll just save it through to the VDI that I created earlier. So we are not in New York. So we'll do Sydney. Yep, continue. We'll put in my name, so put that in, and then we will pick the computer's name. So I'm just going to name it Nodebox, pick a username, pick a password, and I'm going to log in automatically. Continue. So that's just going to now copy files and start the installation. Okay, so the installation is complete and you need to restart, so let's do that. Okay, so this is the a fresh installation of Ubuntu. So it'll come up with this pop-up here, what's new, just click next, next, don't send system info, next, and done. Okay, so if you're on a virtual machine, what you want to do is go into devices and insert guest editions CD image. Just go run and type in the password. So what this allows you to do is to actually put this into full screen. So at the moment, if I try and full screen it, it actually just goes into that box still. I want it to be expanded out, so that's why I'm installing this VirtualBox Guest Editions installer. So we'll do that once that's ready. Okay, it says please return to close this window. Okay. At the moment, I'm just going to do that a bit later, so remind me later. And at this point, I'm just going to restart the machine. Okay, so now we can open this up and it will go into full screen now. So this is your fresh installation of Ubuntu when you first get it. So I'm going to eject this, no need for that anymore. The other thing that I'm going to do is just a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to remove any favorites that I don't really want. So I'm going to remove that, remove, and remove. Okay, and the other thing that I'm going to add is the terminal, which is a very, very important tool. And we'll add that to the favorites there. And it's something that we need to get familiar with pretty quickly when it comes to command line interface. So we will open up a terminal here. Okay. This is, I'll just take you through some of the, I guess, familiarization pieces of Ubuntu and Linux in general. So this goes into your home directory. Whenever you open up a terminal, it just opens you up into your home directory. Okay. The home directory is signified by this little squiggly line there. So effectively, this I guess folder is actually -home or /home/Catan. So that's where you actually are. Okay. And if you want to change directories or list all the directories, so you just type in ls and that will list everything that is in your home directory. So at the moment, on a fresh install, I've got desktop, a desktop folder, downloads folder, music folder, so on and so forth. Okay, so these are all folders in my home directory. Now if I wanted to go into my downloads directory, it's cd, which means change directory, downloads, so capital D-O, W. Okay, and what you can do here from here is this function called tab. So when you press tab, it will actually figure out, okay, well, DOW means downloads, so that'll save you a little bit of typing, and so you can get into your downloads, and then you can change directory into your downloads, and now you're in your home directory downloads. Now, if you want to get out of there, back into your home directory, or just in general, going back one directory, you just type in cd space ... enter, and you'll get back into your home directory. Okay, so that's kind of how you work your way around the terminal. Now, the other thing that you can do is just keep going back. So cd ... will get you to home, and then when you list that, you should expect to see your username there. So going back to the home directory, you can also go cd squiggly line, and you'll get back into your home directory. cd ... cd ... This is now what's known as the root directory, so to speak. So in here, when you list this out, this will have all of this, I guess, system directories and files. Anything that you want changed within here, you're going to need what's known as super user access privileges. And that is represented by sudo, or super user do, and then a particular command. So that's what you'd use that for. And it says it up here as well. To run a command as administrator or root, use sudo and then command. I call it sudo. It's probably sudo, but that's just, it is what it is. Okay. Now going back into my home directory again. So you can see here that there is a home directory in there. So you can just go into cd home and then cd my name, and you can get back into there. Okay, and so now you're back into the squiggly line. So you can always go back to the root as well, just by doing that, and you're now in there. Now I'm just going to go back into my home directory. Now these aren't all the files that are in my home directory. There are some also hidden files. So LL is so LS I think stands for list short. LL I think stands for list long. So what you can do is you can actually find out lots of these other files that are in there. Now anything with a dot in front of it, so .config, that is a hidden file. Okay, and so you'll be able to see that in your file manager here as well. And so you'll see that that marries up with everything that you can see here. But then what about all the hidden stuff? If you want to view all the hidden stuff, well, you just click that button and you go show hidden files. And so all of these files will then marry up to what's in here. Okay, so that's effectively how you'd navigate your way around the GUI, which is the graphical user interface, and that is the command line interface, so to speak. The other thing that you can do is press the up button, and that will give you all the commands that you've been typing. So you can keep typing those, you can hit the up button, and that will give you all the previous commands, and then you want to go down, up, down, so on, so forth. Okay. What else is there? Oh, the next thing that you probably want to understand is how to edit text files. I use what's known as Nano, and that is basically it's a text file editor that is in your in terminal. Okay, and so that's something to really get familiar with. So for example, if I wanted to create a new text file, just call it ABC. So what I would do is I'd type in super user do if I wanted it in a directory that's not my home, but you can also do it in home as well. So so currently I am in my home directory, so super user do nano and I'm going to create a file called abc123. So it's going to ask me for my password because I asked for super user access. And so you'll see here straight away that there is something already created. So we're going to, so basically, if we wanted to type something into here, like a text file or edit a text file, we can type something in here. Now, if we want to get out of here, it's Control X, and then it will ask you, do you want to save this? And I'm going to say yes. And then it's going to ask you, all right, well, what do you want it to be saved as? All you need to really do is just press enter and it will save that. So now I have, as you can see, a file. So if I look into ls, I can see a text file called abc123. It's locked here, so you can see that also in the graphical interface. It's locked because I did that as super user. If I didn't do that as super user, then I can do another file, add that through, close it, save it, and I can now edit. Look, there's no lock on there as well because I created that file as username Catan, whereas this one was created as username root, so to speak. Okay. Now, if I wanted to remove these files from here, I'm just going to go sudo rm and abc123, and that will remove it. Then I can also remove the abcd1234, and I can remove that as well, and so that goes away. Okay. Now, if you want to remove what's in a folder, it'd be rm-rf. And say, for example, if you wanted to remove the downloads folder, I don't want to, but that's the command for removing the folders, a folder and its contents. Okay. What else is there? Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is upgrading all the packages on your machine. So what that command is going to do, and you'll see this a lot in a lot of tutorials that you'll find online, it's sudo apt-get update, and so this fetches all of the latest packages. Well, this is awkward. Do I even have internet access? Yes, I do. Could not connect. Great. Nope. Okay. So that's not working. The other thing that you can also, or the other command is sudo apt-get upgrade, and so you can then upgrade all the packages like that, and so you say yes. Because this is a fresh install, it'll go through and download all the new packages and install them as well. So we'll do that now. While that's going ahead, so you can download obviously from Australia, or you can get it from the main server. So we'll just change that because the Australian server, I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. Okay, so while that's updating actually, we'll open up a new window. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is the service files. So the service files are when you want something to boot up at start. So if you want a piece of software that is to boot up at start, typically what happens is that you need to edit what's known as a service file. The service files are kept in CD, so change directory etc system d system. And if you have a look at all the files in there, you can see some service files. So we will use these service files, or we'll create service files throughout the course, just to of building our node, just to get things to start up at the start. So for example, if we want Bitcoin D to start up, or if we want Electrum Rust server to start up at start, then we'll go about doing that as well. So now let's just do that update to see if that links up. So this looks good. Excellent. And then sudo apt-get upgrade and finish that. Okay, now the other thing that I want to show is the disks application. So there's an application here called disks. So this will show you what your hard drives and any sort of disk information that you plug in. So if you've got like a say for example you've got a 500 gig SSD and you've got a 2 terabyte hard drive, then the hard drive will come up here as well as the 500 gig SSD. Now what you want to do is make sure that you mount this thing at start. So what you can do is you can edit mount options, and you can say, all right, well, I want it to mount at system startup, and you can identify the mount point. Now, generally speaking, the mount points are in CD MNT. They're usually in here. Okay, so because I don't have any other disks installed, I'm going to install everything onto this 2 terabyte fake hard drive that I've created. That is where all the information is going to go. But if you did have a USB plugged in device that has like a 3 terabyte hard drive, or you had any other sort of hard drive in here, it would be it's typical that it gets mounted into the MNT folder. Okay. Now also it would be a good time to I guess talk a little bit about VPNs. So before we do anything on our computers when it comes to Bitcoin, it might be worthwhile for you to install a VPN. Each company has its own little flavor of how they go about doing it, but you can install a VPN, and all VPN providers will have some sort of instructions for how to get it set up on Linux. So I would strongly advise that you do. It's not the be-all end-all of privacy, but it just does help you out a little bit in that regard. And I think that's pretty much the familiarization piece of Ubuntu. The terminal is something that we will get really comfortable with over time, and we'll try and lose the GUI type thing. But that basically is a good primer to start your Ubuntu command line skills. Okay.